My favorite writer? Well, you're going to think this is insane.
No. Me? No.
Among my favorites was L. Ron Hubbard.
Serious?
This is long before he started doing Dianetics. L. Ron Hubbard was one of the best pulp writers in the country.
Serious?
I'm telling you, kid, Hubbard was one of the most adept storytellers there ever was. Hubbard was there. Now, Hubbard was legendary among the pulp writers. He'd been writing pulp stories for years. Most of his biography was made up. It was, he created his own mythology about himself. But one of the things that was true about him was that he was one of the very first writers ever to have an electric typewriter. And he had one of those huge original...
IBM Selectric? Before that.
I think it was even before an IBM Selectric. It was something like a big L.C. Smith. I mean, it was just gigantic. It was, if you tied it around someone's feet, you could put them in a bay and no one would ever find them. Forget about it. So... he tried to figure out a way to write faster because you were only being paid a penny a word, 2 cents a word, 3 cents a word. That was the max. That's all you got. The best markets paid 3 cents a word when you caught them. Didn't you know that?
No. They paid by the word.
They paid by the word, of course. That's the way I wrote. To become faster, because he was only being paid a penny a word, 2 cents a word, 3 cents a word, he had attached to the wall. He worked against a wall. Had a little table set against the wall. On the wall behind the table where the typewriter sat, he had installed one of those spindles that butchers have the brown paper on, a roll of brown paper.
Oh, yeah.
And he would roll the brown paper, the butcher's paper, into the typewriter and start typing. And when it got too much, he would rip it off with a T-square. He would rip it off and throw it behind him and keep typing. And that's how he would take the manuscript in. And that way he didn't have to stop to put paper in the typewriter.
So he's cranking at that point.
He was really cranking it, but he wrote a lot. He must have had a dozen pseudonyms, and the ones of the Kilkenny Cats were written on the name Kurt von Ratchen. So I'm at this evening, and I'm just a high school kid, and I've come in from Cleveland, Ohio, for Christ's sake, and I'm in among the giants, for God's sakes, and I'm just sort of sitting there quietly, and Lester Del Rey, who was a very well-known writer and subsequently became Del Rey Books and blah, 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 blah. Lester, in his childhood, had been a stump minister like Marjoe Gortner. He had been a revivalist. He was a child evangelist. And so Ron was complaining that he was breaking his ass writing, and he was never going to get, they would find him slumped over the typewriter one day. This is how, because there was no annuity, there's no insurance. They knew that they had to do something, and Ron said there's got to be a better way to make money. So Lester says, start a religion. That's the way to do it, start a religion. And he said, and Ron said, yeah, not a bad. Now, what kind of a religion? Well, one guy contributed Reich's Orgon box. Another one came up with engrams, which were forgotten, lost memory, or whatever it was. And sure enough, Ron went ahead and he cobbled up Dianetics, and he wrote this book
because it has a little bit of all of that.
All of that stuff in it, and it took off, and he became very, very famous. And now, of course, he's a god, and you dare not say anything again. That this happened this way. But when I told this story at Roddy McDowell's dinner, suddenly next to me, Julia McGinnis Johnson, this opera singer, went out of her Mesopotamian mind. So Roddy comes out. I was terribly shaken because I didn't want to be disrespectful to Roddy. I liked him a lot, and here I had ruined his goddamn dinner. So I'm sitting out on the veranda and just kind of shaking, and Roddy comes out and he sits down and he goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I said, you might have told me that she was a Scientologist, you jerk. And he says, I forgot.
That ended the party.
Oh yeah,
in a big way.
Yeah. Roddy called for days thereafter saying it wasn't your fault, but we were never invited back, and then he died.
Oh God, man, that's like the last party.
These things happen to me constantly. No matter where I go, some shit happens.